Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morgan. We're at the Motor City Badmouth off of a weekend. A little bit more of a restful one for what my standards are anyways. And I'm joined by Candy Ebling. Candy?
Hello, everybody.
And Addeo-Weiss, the creator of this broadcast along with myself. What's up, Lewis? Welcome back to our show.
What's going on, Scott?
And Rick Curti, who's one of the maintainers of the broadcast. How you doing there, Rick?
Hey, guys. How are you?
All right, let's go out there. We have a lot of ground to cover tonight, but we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. First of all, okay, we might as well go ahead and talk about some preseason picks for the shortened season. So I'm going to let both of you guys go ahead and weigh in on them, and I'll get my 2 cents worth. And if Candy wants to go out there and come up with a few, that's fine too. So, all right, who wants to lead off?
All right, so let's start. And what we should do is we'll just go around. We'll go quick round table with each topic, and then I'll give my take. Somebody will give theirs. You know the way this goes. We've seen it enough on a myriad of different programs. So we'll start with the National League pennant. 60-game season. Anything can happen. Take that into context. Who do you guys have winning the National League pennant? Before I ask you your answer, I'll go off and say that I think the Dodgers have the best chance. They just have so much depth. I think the DH is going to help them shuffle in a lot of those outfielders, like Jock Peterson's going to get a lot more playing time. They have AJ Pollock. Justin Turner's going to benefit from the DH. Oh, yeah, they also got a guy named Mookie Betts. They still have a pretty good rotation, too. I mean, you got Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Julio Urias. I mean, Dustin May is going to probably factor into that. Ross Stripling, and their bullpen was 6th in the National League in ERA last year, or the MLB, I'm sorry. So, you know, factor in, I think the Dodgers are the best bet to win the National League pennant. So, Scott, and then Rick, Candy, who do you guys have winning the National League crown?
I got to go with the Dodgers. I do. I like their pitching. Their pitching's awfully good. And like you mentioned, Lewis, they have some sluggers. At least the one thing they can feel about Mookie Betts, however, is the fact that they made that trade and they'll get some kind of production for sure. So, yeah, it's hard to go against the Dodgers. I'm with you.
Rick?
Yeah, you guys took my answer. I'm a big Dodger fan, so I'm smiling right now. So I have the Dodgers. If we have a season, which is a big if, but if we have a season and it all goes okay, I see the Dodgers. I just don't see anybody else doing it. I don't think the Phillies are there yet. Cardinals, I just, Brewers maybe, but I just think the Dodgers are too strong and too tough right now. Especially in a short season.
Lewis, we're going to add that category dark horse too. But go ahead, Candy.
Sure.
Next.
I'll give you let's get Candies, and then we'll grab a dark horse for each for the National League.
Well, I'm going to be the odd woman out, I guess. So I'm not going to go with the Dodgers. I have a love for my Brewers, and I really think they've been off to a couple of good starts. Yes, they had a lot of different moving parts this off season, but they also still have the MVP, the Christian Yelich, and I just think 60-game season, they can pull it off. You never know.
Yeah, well, I'll mention the Brewers again later because I have another pick related to them. Now, I guess if we're going to go dark horse for the National League, again, this isn't really a dark horse because I really wouldn't be shocked if they got there, but I genuinely think the Atlanta Braves could make it all the way to the World Series. Obviously, they're not going to have Yasiel Puig because of his recent positive test for the coronavirus, so that contract's null and void. And they're going to be without Nick Markakis, but they got Freddie Freeman back. He's healthy. But the biggest thing, I think, with them is just their young starting pitching. Obviously, you have, pride of Harvard, Westlake, Max Fried, who's going to be in his sophomore season. I think he's bound to have a very big sophomore season, even though it's going to be abbreviated 10 to 12 starts at most. They have Cole Hamels, who he's not going to start the season right away, but Cole Hamels is a big game pitcher. He won the World Series MVP in 2008 with the Phillies when they beat the Tampa Bay Rays. They have a very strong bullpen. They obviously have Luke Jackson there. They still have Mark Melancon, I believe. They also signed Will Smith to be their closer. And then you can't not talk about the Braves and not talk about Ronald Acuna, who I think with Juan Soto, we're looking at the next kind of like two faces of baseball for the next 7 to 10 years. And, Acuna to me is one of the most dynamic players in baseball. I think he's really if there's a guy who I think can go 50-50, it's Acuna. I mean, he stole 39 bases last year. He hit over 40 home runs. he plays excellent defense regardless of where you put him in the outfield. And, in 60 games, to imagine what he can do, it's ridiculous. Again, I really wouldn't be shocked if Atlanta makes it all the way to the World Series. Scott?
I mean, my dark horse in the National League, I'm going with the Philadelphia Phillies. Joe Girardi, you know what? Did good work with the Yankees. Doesn't hurt they had Bryce Harper. Okay. Didi Gregorius, I think they brought him over from the Yankees. And I think the Philadelphia Phillies, I just like Joe Girardi, and I think that they've got enough talent, especially over a 60-game season, to be able to make some noise.
Oh, yeah, and they also brought in Zach Wheeler, and they have Aaron Nola, who was excellent in the second half. So, I mean, and you know what? I like that pick. I mean, it's always in the back of my mind with Joe Girardi, because I've always thought, even when he was the manager of the Yankees, when he had those dilapidated rosters, obviously 2013 when Jeter was hurt and A-Rod was trying to sue the world, Girardi always got the most out of everybody on his teams. I mean, he worked very well with Larry Rothschild. And, I think Girardi's kind of like that guy. I mean, even in 2006, when he managed a hapless Marlins team that had just traded away Delgado and Mike Lowell and Paul LaDuca, Girardi got the most out of that team. They won 78 games, but, he did everything he could. He mustered every ounce of talent out of those guys. And, if Zach Wheeler can harness, his 10 to 12 start run that he normally goes on in the second half of every season and do that here with the Phillies in the first year of that 5-year deal, and then you have Aaron Nola and you get more consistency out of Zach Eflin, I totally see that. So that's definitely a valid dark horse candidate. Rick?
Man, you guys took my answer. I was going to go with the Phillies as well. I love Girardi, but I'm going to go with Candy. I actually like the Brewers. I mean, they did really well last year. They got Yelich. I think they're going to get off to a fast start. I think a lot of people are not really focusing on them. They're too busy looking at the Yankees, the Dodgers. They want to see what the Phillies do, and especially if you want to see what the Astros are going to do. But I really like. I'm going to go with the Brewers. I think they get off to a hot start, and I think they're going to really surprise some people.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't shock me. One thing I love about the Brewers, and we haven't talked about it really, is their depth. I wrote a couple of pieces back in December about their signings of the likes of Avisail Garcia and Justin Smoke, and why a lot of the numbers for Smoke in his last year in Toronto really didn't matter because pitching played a lot better in Toronto last season. And I think Milwaukee is obviously, Candy and Scott, as you know, that's a very good hitter's park. Every year that Miller Park's been opened, it's played in favor of hitters. If you look at Baseball Reference's park factor metrics, hitters tend to do well there. Obviously, Christian Yelich had a lot more home runs there. Ryan Braun's had a terrific career, would have been terrific regardless of where you play him. But, Miller Park helps. And, also bring in a guy like Brock Holt, who will be their new utility player. He's going to play all over the field. Garcia can play all the outfield positions. Braun is still going to, he's not going to be the same Ryan Braun of old, and this may be it for him. But, Milwaukee's got a good offense, and they have a lot of depth on that roster. It's just a matter of if that starting pitching can stay, consistent enough to get them through a 60-game season.
Well, I mean, I'll always be partial towards Miller Park. I got married there.
Yeah, I mean, your bias is as evident as ever.
Yeah, well, even though the restaurant that we got married in is no longer there, it will be replaced by another one. You know what? Miller Park is definitely a hitter's park for sure. And, hey, what can I tell you? The Brewers are certainly a team that you don't sleep on. Do they have enough 60-game season? I have things I'll say later in the broadcast about what I think of certain aspects of the Brewers for sure.
All right, Candy, we need your dark horse now, and then we'll move on to the American League pennant.
Oh, my dark horse. Dark horse to win. The fact that it's a 60-game season, I'm going to say, and I know you guys all said the Dodgers out of the West, but how about someone like the Rockies? Really go dark horse.
You know what? You're not wrong, and I'm going to come out and say it now. I mean, that's the best left side of the infield in baseball. I think Trevor Story is the best shortstop in baseball. I love Lindor. I think Lindor's terrific, but Trevor Story, his combination of defense and the ability to get on base and hit for power, I think the only other player who, if he played shortstop full-time, could maybe even put up those numbers is also in the division, and that's Manny Machado, but he's a third baseman. And I love the Padres. I'm surprised nobody said them because they have a lot of young pitching. Chris Paddock, who's going to be their opening day starter. Thanks, Miami, for trading him for Fernando Rodney, and I'm sure that panned out well. 5.87 ERA over the 20 or so innings he pitched for us to give up for Chris Paddock. But then they also have the likes of Mackenzie Gore. Obviously, Fernando Tatis is another name. He could be one of the best players in baseball in the next 2 to 3 years. I mean, the Padres are another team too that we're going to have to keep tabs on as the Dodgers get older, and there's uncertainty about what happens to Kershaw after this season because it's the last year of a 3-year deal. Do they lock up Walker Buehler? What happens with Justin Turner, who's in his 30s? I mean, the Padres are going to be a team that we're going to have to keep tabs on for the next 5 to 6 years. I think they're going to make some noise in that NL West coming up very soon. But with that said, we'll move on to the American League pennant now. So I'm not going to shock anybody with this, but honestly, I look at them on paper, and I watched them play that 2-game series over the Mets this weekend, and I think the Yankees are going to win that division easily. That is the most talented team, other than the Dodgers, that I've seen in a long time. They're without Domingo Germán for reasons, beyond the playing field. Luis Severino's out with Tommy John surgery. But if you just look at that rotation, without them, Jordan Montgomery was terrific last night. Obviously, you have the $324 million man in Cole. I mean, he's going to be terrific. He led the American League in ERA and strikeouts last year, an ERA plus. Jay Happ is a solid back of the rotation starter. Paxton, if he's healthy and he can command 3 pitches the way he did at some points last season, is an ace, honestly, pitching in the 2 spot. Tanaka, you know what you're going to get. Tanaka's one of the best postseason pitchers we've seen in the last 20 years. I mean, then we haven't even begun to discuss the lineup yet. Obviously, Stanton and Judge hit 2 home runs last night. Stanton hit a home run that came off the bat at 113 miles an hour. And then you have Brett Gardner, who, consummate professional, great defender in left field, can play center field for you. Aaron Hicks looks like he's progressing well in his recovery from Tommy John. Oh, yeah, Aroldis Chapman has COVID. No worries. We have Zach Britton, who's going to be our closer. Just had a .6 ERA 4 years ago out of the bullpen as a closer. Probably one of the best reliever seasons ever. We also have Tommy Kahnle, Adam Ottavino, Chad Green, a myriad of other guys. I mean, the Yankees are, in my opinion, the deepest team in the American League. They could probably field 2 teams worth of all-star caliber players. There's honestly no question they would have won the American League handily this year, but in my opinion, they're going to win the American League pennant. And if they don't, this season's an utter disappointment for them, honestly.
Okay. Well, you certainly know how to make a good, compelling case for anything you talk about, Mr. Stat. Okay.
Yeah, man. I mean, give me your picks.
Go ahead.
Well,
I get mine, Rick.
I'm going with the Yankees too. I said the last broadcast we have, I had the Yankees winning the whole thing. They're just too deep right now. I think their weak link right now would probably be Aaron Boone, but I think right now a mop could manage that team because they're so talented. So, but if they can get Judge and Stanton healthy, and if they can cut down their strikeouts and actually hit for a decent average, because we all know they can hit home runs, they're going to be unstoppable. I just don't see anybody beating them. They're just way too deep in pitching, way too deep in hitting. They got tons and tons of money, and so they can pretty much do what they want. So I just think, to me, it'd be a cakewalk for the Yankees. And if they don't win it this year or come close to winning it this year, it's going to be bye-bye Aaron Boone.
I mean, I don't know how it's going to work with people getting fired in a 60-game season.
Right. I wonder about
it's
that.
It's too small of a sample size, but I don't think Boone's been the problem. He's won 100 games each of his first 2 years there. It's he's not playing. He's just making decisions. But Scott, your pick for the American League pennant?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the New York Yankees. You have to. I mean, they're definitely loaded for sure. I don't think I see that Aaron Boone will get the axe, like you said, Lewis, in a 60-game season. I don't see it. But, they do have Garrett Cole, and let's not forget the fact that Judge and Stanton are definitely a dangerous 1-2 punch. And
we haven't even talked about your best friend, DJ LeMahieu, who tested positive for coronavirus. First at bat last night, he laces a single up the middle. I mean, he's the kind of guy that, I heard Buster Olney say it the other day. If you told him that there was a game in December, he'd be ready in 5 minutes and probably get a hit in his first at bat, and that's exactly what he did. I mean, LeMahieu, I think, is going to be a big factor for them too, especially playing first and second base for them.
Well, DJ LeMahieu, in my opinion, is underrated and he's underpaid. Can only imagine what it. Isn't he on the second year of a 2-year contract that he signed for $20 million?
Yeah, he'll be a free agent at the end of the season.
Yeah,
I'm sure the Yankees will bring him back. They'll give him the Chase Headley, factor, being a professional, and he'll actually produce for them.
Yeah, so he'll make a lot of money. I think they got it. They got out dirt cheap at $12 million. Of course, if anybody get $12 million a year during COVID-19, go take her. But yeah, DJ will be
Candy?
Well, this time I'm not going to be the odd woman out. I honestly, the Yankees, they're just too depth. They have too much firepower, I think.
All right, now that was the most anticlimactic, I think. I think this year is the most anticlimactic decisions when it comes to, and I think preseason too, we would have also the same thing, like Yankees-Dodgers, like regardless of whether some guy in China ate a bat or not, I think we would have been saying the same thing about, who our picks to win the pennant in the American National League are. But we'll go dark horse now, and I'm gonna surprise some people with my dark horse pick. I'm not really taking into account the ballpark situation, but I genuinely think the Toronto Blue Jays could be a dark horse pick to win the American League pennant, and here's why. The Red Sox are gonna struggle this year. I think the Red Sox offense will be okay. The addition of Verdugo helps. I think JD Martinez is going to continue to produce. Andrew Benintendi, I only see getting better. I think he hits too many blind drives. It's a lot of doubles. For him to be a bust, I think is going to be a farce at this point. I just don't see it happening. But their pitching is weak. Colin McHugh, who had signed a 1-year deal with them in March, opted out of the season. So they have a projected rotation, that's going to have the likes of Ryan Weber and Eduardo Rodriguez, who tested positive for coronavirus. Brian Johnson. They may have to get some work out of Brendan Workman, even though he's transitioned into becoming a good closer. Their starting rotation is going to be patchwork. Ron Renicki's going to have a lot of work to do with that rotation. Their bullpen is not good. And I think, obviously, the Orioles are going to be terrible. We know the Yankees are going to win the division, but the wild card still exists. And when you look at Toronto, and I'll be quick with this so I can get to your point, your dark horse picks, you have Bo Bichette, who I think is going to be an MVP candidate within the next year or two. I think he's that good. He's a great defender. Hits for a lot of power. His dad was a pretty good hitter, too, back in the day on the Boomtown Boys with the Rockies. I know I'm butchering the nickname. But when you also look at Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's going to play first base and DH, he's not going to have to worry about the shady defense at third base. You have Nate Pearson, who I think is going to be an absolute monster in the starting rotation. That team, and they signed Hyunjin Ryu. The bullpen looks decent. Trent Thornton, I think, can get better for them in the starting rotation. That's a team, again, that they're going to make some noise this year. I genuinely think if they go to the World Series, it'll shock some people, but I won't be 100% shocked.
Okay, interesting.
Scott?
I'm going with the LA Angels. How do you like that?
I love that.
Yeah. Joe Madden.
Mike Trout in the World Series?
Yeah, well, you said a dark horse. I'm giving it to you. Joe Madden, why not? You got Ohtani coming back. He looked pretty sharp the other day. And by the way, you ever heard of Mike Trout and Albert Pujols in a 60-game season? Designated hitter, providing Mike Trout does play, and all indications look like I haven't heard that he won't. But I like the Angels. I think that what will ultimately haunt the Cubs is letting Joe Madden get in the way. I really do. I don't know how effective David Ross will be, but Joe Madden, to me, is a guy that if anybody can pull a rabbit out of his hat, it's Joe Madden. I'm going with the Angels.
Yeah, he did it in Tampa and he did it in Chicago, so why
exactly.
not in LA, right? And he knows that organization. And I'll add on one more point. A point you and me made back in December, I believe, when Mickey Callaway was hired as a pitching coach.
Right.
Mickey Callaway is meant to be a pitching coach, and to work with Joe Madden, I think that's a match made in heaven right there. That's two aces in the hole on your coaching staff.
No question about it.
All right, Rick?
I have the Tampa Bay Rays. I think they're going to... Nobody ever talks about them. Nobody ever goes to their games. They got a great manager. They're the team that, how the Yankees have all this money? Well, they're the opposite of the Yankees. They have no money, and for some reason, they're always in contention. And, people don't talk about them. People want them to move. They play in an ugly stadium, and it is ugly. But they just don't get the respect
think about
of a lot of teams. And I love what the Tampa Bay Rays do. They have no money, but they always produce the best players. They're just really, they play smart baseball, and that's what I like.
It's the A word, Rick. It's the A word, analytics, your favorite thing in the world.
Oh, I love analytics. I love WAR, and you know how much I love the DH.
I know. Well, that's why they're so successful, because of the way that they develop players. It's the use of analytics throughout their minor league system. I mean, and why do the Dodgers are consistently successful? Because Andrew Friedman's there, and Andrew Friedman built that empire in Tampa. I mean, like them or not, analytics are they're like taxes, I guess. Like, they're just something that's going to become like commonplace, and they already are commonplace in baseball. But you know what? I agree with you 100%. I don't know if Scott does too. I mean, like, Tampa Bay's pitching staff is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Charlie Morton, Tyler Glasnow, may mention him later. But I mean, that's a terrific team. Wander Franco's going to be on their roster. He's going to be an absolute stud at shortstop in a year or two. I mean, that's a great pick. I love that.
Well, amazingly enough, when you talk about the Tampa Bay Rays, yeah, they do have a great player development. But you say they don't play in front of that many people during the regular season. Guess what? They'll feel at home because they ain't played in front of anybody at all now, so it doesn't matter.
Well, they'll have a lot of people there because they'll all be cutouts.
Exactly. Well, don't give the cutouts away here yet, but yeah, you're right. So the Rays don't have a problem when it comes to attendance. They never had, and this year will be no exception for a lot of different reasons. So
they'll probably go to the World Series and probably won't sell it out like they did last time.
Well. First of all, nobody's selling anything out. Who knows what you're going to have for fans then, if any. I doubt it, but no. When it comes to attendance issues, the Rays will definitely be consistent with the amount of people or lack thereof, both this year and any other normal year. So, sorry, Tampa Bay Rays fans, but your attendance is not very good. And I'm trying to be nice about it. Or this year will be non-existent, as in most years where it's non-existent, plus a few.
All right, Candy?
Well, Rick stole my thunder here. I was going to say Tampa, and I'm going to say Tampa Bay, and the reason being is I think pitching is going to take a real big importance in this, and best reliever, and Nick Anderson's going to surprise everybody in that category.
And by the way, Rick, just so you know, since Candy's in the studio, when you picked the Rays, she had her fist clenched and wanted to pop you one in the jaw, just so you know. So for those,
that's how I felt when he took my Phillies. When I saw when it went to you, I'm like, man, I'm gonna take the Phillies.
Yeah, well, that Candy was giving some fist action. It was headed towards Charlotte.
That's okay. I'll send her a Milwaukee Milkman jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's fine. You can bribe me with. You get her a Milwaukee Milkman jersey, and you get me my sun drop.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Lewis, continue rolling.
All right, so we'll move on to individual awards now. World Series we'll save best for last because, that's the biggest award of all. So we'll start with the National League Cy Young Award. Who do you guys have? I'll start. I haven't really given much thought to it, but when I really look at the teams, I'm going to just go out on a limb and say I think Walker Buehler has the best chance to win it. Dodger Stadium is a known pitcher's park. Buehler, I think, was excellent last year. Some of the analytics say otherwise, but I thought he was, really good. I love his 3-pitch mix. Very good fastball. He can cut it. He's got a great breaking ball. Vanderbilt produces a lot of excellent starting pitching. Sonny Gray, David Price. The list goes on and on. But, I think Walker Buehler, and I think learning from Clayton Kershaw, the best pitcher of his generation, I would not be shocked if Buehler winds up winning his first Cy Young Award and continuing that line of dominance of LA starting pitching.
Okay. Who's next?
Scott?
You know what? If it isn't going to be Clayton Kershaw, who would be first on my list, I'll give you a 1A and a 1B. I'll give you Madison Bumgarner for the Diamondbacks. Madison's a big game pitcher. If the Diamondbacks even make it to the playoffs, I don't know. Madison Bumgarner impresses the daylights on me for some reason. I love.
Yeah, but that doesn't factor into the Cy Young Award, though.
No, I know. I'm just saying, if he has a heck of a regular season, I'm not talking about the postseason. I'm talking about regular season. I have a hunch that Madison Bumgarner should be in that discussion. Just a hunch.
I think that would propel his Hall of Fame case a little bit more. There's some counting stats that he's not at yet, but having a Cy Young Award, I think, would help. And, he already has the postseason dominance, which helps a lot. And if there's one game I want pitched, giving him the baseball because he's got absolutely no fear and anxieties when it comes to pitching in big games. But Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Madison Bumgarner walk away with the Cy Young Award.
But when you talk about awards, and I know we're going to do it for the sake of this broadcast, and I've got no problem with it, I guess a trophy any year is all well and good, but how much do you think that trophy will be worth, knowing full well that you have 100 less games to play with? You know, and
it's definitely discounted.
Right.
I mean, look at the 1981, National League MVP award. Fernando Valenzuela won it, I believe, and he won Rookie of the Year, but that was a shortened season.
Right.
I believe they played I think they only played 108 games that year, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I think they played two halves, you're right.
The two 54-game halves, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, and then the Reds, I think, had the best record, but they didn't even make it to the postseason. Dodgers did, if I remember right. So you're right.
So,
but
I mean,
you're right. The awards will be
that stuff all we want, but I guess it's just for the concept of the conversation. And then obviously time has to really shape narratives. So I guess in 15, 20 years, we really talk about whether or not those awards are valid in a shortened season.
Well, but the awards will be the awards. They'll be part of the history books as well. So I mean, that's why we're going along with it, because the awards are what they are. So I'm just saying you're right. Maybe the word discounted a little bit. Then again, everything in 2020 is going to be discounted. So why pick on the award winners? We'll have a trophy in their trophy case. So go ahead.
Yes, sir.
All right, Rick.
Okay, well, this is not a big surprise. Best pitcher in baseball. I'm going with Max Scherzer. That guy is just a phenomenal player. He's terrific. He's great. Strasburg, I like Strasburg, but, I don't know about him. He's like Jekyll and Hyde, and, we'll see what happens with him. But Scherzer's so consistent. He can pitch in the American League, National League. It don't matter. You put him in. You can play Washington, Detroit. Probably put him in Mars. He'll still win the Cy Young. He's that good. So I'm going with Max Scherzer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised no one said Jacob deGrom.
Well, no, we still somebody left
the
here.
Best pitcher in baseball. At this point, it's not even close. But
what about Jarrett Cole?
Garrett Cole.
It's the thing I have is like Cole went to Houston and he had 2 years that really further put him on the map. He had one great year in Pittsburgh, but deGrom has been consistent his entire career. I believe he owns the second best ERA since debuting in 2014. The only other is a guy named Clayton Kershaw. But deGrom posted 2 seasons in a row where he looked like Roger Clemens in the mid '80s, or late '80s. I mean, and he looked like Kershaw in his prime. He got hurt the other day, and he pitched in a sim game, and he was throwing 98 to 101. After getting hurt with back stiffness. So I mean, to me, he's a guy that he also hasn't thrown a lot of innings, and he is 31, but. Jacob deGrom is going to be, he's kind of having a Koufax-esque peak where it's just, you don't know how long it's going to go on, but it's friggin' impressive watching him. I mean, again, if he wins it, 2 or 3 Cy Young awards would be ridiculous. I mean, that hasn't happened since Randy Johnson.
So Louis, when we talk about the Cy Young, it's still going to be by leagues, right now?
Yeah, it's
right. Okay,
yeah. This isn't pre-1967 where they only
right.
gave
No,
it out
I know,
in the
but
league.
again,
they're giving one out in the American and National League.
Right. No.
So Candy, give us your pick, and then we'll go to the American League.
Yeah, give us our National League pick.
Yeah, I have to say Jacob deGrom.
Thank you. I needed that validation.
It doesn't matter. I mean,
wins are not an important player statistic, everybody. You don't need to win 20 games to win the Cy Young Award.
Well, yeah, we found that out with Felix Hernandez. What did he win?
13 and 12 in 2010.
Yeah, right. So
both play with lousy teams. That's the unfortunate part with deGrom. The Mets are lousy.
And the sad thing is they score a run more per game when he doesn't pitch. It's like there's anxiety, we need to score for him, and they just can't.
Well, if you really want to put this award into perspective, remember, I know it's before your time, but then again, with a stat guy like you, Lewis, it won't make it lick a difference anyhow. But Steve Carlton, many years ago, won the Cy Young Award playing for the last place Philadelphia Phillies. So
he also won 27 games and had a 197 ERA and struck out over 300 batters. So, I mean, that helps. Steve Carlton's probably one of the 5 best left-handed pitchers of all time, too. I mean, he's called lefty for a reason, right? He won 4 Cy Young Awards.
Yeah, well. Yeah. I guess I'll always look at Steve Carlton in 2 ways. One, playing in Philadelphia where he never wanted to talk to the media. And 2, he wins a Cy Young Award with the worst team in baseball. Just so to show you back then how valued he was, that you can win a Cy Young Award playing for any team regardless of the position. So, yeah, I think
absolutely.
Probably put Steve Carlton out there.
not wrong at all. He was an excellent pitcher. All right, so now we'll go to the American League. American League Cy Young Awards. So for me, and this is one that I have somewhat confidence for because I've seen him throwing in spring training, and I think he looks okay. He did have surgery to repair a groin, but you know what? I'm picking Justin Verlander win a third Cy Young Award. I just think we're kind of watching, Nolan Ryan was a power pitcher who threw, 98 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour up until the very end of his career. I mean, the last pitch of Nolan Ryan's career was 98 miles an hour, for fun fact. But Verlander's velocity, he had that short stretch where it kind of disappeared for a little bit because he had some abdominal issues and some other injury problems that prevented him from pitching as much. But he just reminds me, I feel like I'm watching Randy Johnson or Nolan Ryan, one of those power pitchers whose stuff just doesn't dissipate as they get into their late 30s. I mean, he had 300 strikeouts last year. He won 20 plus games. He won his second Cy Young Award, and just in a shortened season. Also, that Houston staff without Garrett Cole, I think Verlander, he's going to be more of a mentor with Greinke, to guys like McCullers and, Josh James and that starting staff. But I don't know. I don't see Verlander really going away for another 2 years as an elite pitcher. I would not be shocked if he wins a third Cy Young Award this year. He's my pick. I just think, the stuff is still there. He's got the mental fortitude, say what you want about him in the World Series. But, I think, I wouldn't be shocked if he does it again. He's my pick to win the American League Cy Young Award.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to go Garrett Cole. I really am with the Yankees. What'll help his case is the fact that you have Aroldis Chapman closing out games in New York, so whatever innings he gets you, okay, he does his job, giving you a really good quality startup. I think Justin Verlander, to me, is a compelling case, no doubt about it. I think he's like wine. Like fine wine, the older you get, the better you get, especially knowing the success that he's had. But I don't know. My gut, I'm going with my original pick, Garrett Cole.
Rick? Same thing, Garrett Cole. I mean, the Yankees are loaded. I don't see any big surprises this year. I think it's going to be like Yankees, Dodgers. They're going to see the same face like Scherzer. I just don't see anybody really breaking out this year because it's such a short season. So I have Garrett Cole, and with the Yankees, they're just loaded, and and paid him a lot of money. So to me, it's going to be Garrett Cole.
Candy?
The same, Garrett Cole. Sorry.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, you're not wrong. He was option 2, but I guess I'm just rooting for Verlander. I'm taking off my objective cap. And being a fan for a second, Verlander, I guess, is somebody I just want to see continue to pitch well. I want to see him continue to put up numbers. I think he has a real shot at 300 wins if he pitches well enough for 4 or 5 more years, but he would have to pitch into his early 40s. So, we'll see. Hopefully we get full season so he has the opportunity to do that. And now we'll move on to the National League MVP. So I'm not going to shock anyone with this one, although it just depends on where you stand on him. But I think Juan Soto, we saw what he did in the World Series last year. We know how talented he is as a hitter. I think he's the closest thing to Ted Williams in the modern age other than Joey Votto. But I think Juan Soto, this is going to be the year where he absolutely puts his foot down as the, 5 to 10 best hitters in baseball if he's already not. He's my National League MVP, just the on-base skills, he's getting better defensively in left field. I think, he's going to, in 60-game season, what he can do, yeah, he's my pick to win National League MVP.
Okay, well, I have to go Christian Yelich this time. I really will. If he hadn't gotten hurt, I think he would have won it last year, but Christian Yelich got awarded for a brand new contract in Milwaukee that'll earn him a statue, among other things, in Milwaukee. So I think it's, as long as Christian Yelich stays on the field, he doesn't get hurt, there's no reason why he won't be taking the hardware of Miller Park. By all means, I got to go Christian Yelich.
All right. Rick?
I have Mookie Betts winning this thing. I think he's got something to prove. We'll see what happens with him next season. I think he wants to show people that I'm a great player. I don't have to be an American League player. I can play great in the National League. He'll be in Los Angeles. I think that the short season and the DH is going to help him tremendously. And I think Mookie Betts will be the National League MVP this year.
No shock. He'll probably win a Gold Glove in right field too.
Yeah.
He's absolutely. He's dynamic on every single front. Candy?
I got to go with my hometown, Christian Yelich.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that pick at all, hometown or no hometown. I don't have anybody in Detroit worth talking about, so I got to come close enough to it with the Dodgers.
Well, it's been a while since we have.
Milwaukee. Maybe a while for Detroit.
Valid. All right, so now we'll move on to the American League MVP. I'm not going to shock anyone here. This guy won three MVPs in the first year of a $400 million contract with all the pressure in the world. What did he do? He went out and he won another MVP. Mike Trout's going to win it. I think he's going to have 4 MVPs. He's going to be only the second player, Barry Bonds being the other one, to have 4 or more MVP awards. Trout should have 6 MVPs right now anyway. It's ridiculous. So, in a 60-game season, he's probably going to post a ridiculous... he's going to hit 360 and he's going to have an on-base of 500. He probably could do that in a full season. He had a 460 on base 2 years ago. So, what would make you think otherwise? Trout's the best player in baseball. He's top 5 already, best players I've ever seen. So, yeah, he's my American League MVP. I hope it's a resounding Mike Trout for all 4 of us, but, that just waits to be seen.
Well, it won't now that you asked, okay.
Out of spite.
Well, come on, Lewis, really. Mr. Statman, but, you certainly make a good case for the guy. You make a good case for anybody that you talk about. Because you have all this analytics and all these stats memorized in your young brain. Now, I'm going to go with Aaron Judge.
Yeah?
I like Aaron Judge playing in a hitter's ballpark at Yankee Stadium.
And one thing nobody talks about with Judge is not only is he an excellent hitter, I can live with the strikeouts because it's a 400 on base percentage every single year. If you're getting on base 40% of the time, he's an excellent base runner. He can steal you 15 bases a season, and he reads the ball off the bat well from his teammates when he's on base. Excellent base runner. Also, he's one of the best defenders in baseball. He's going to win a Gold Glove. Now that Mookie Betts is not in the American League, Aaron Judge will probably win a Gold Glove in right field this year, too. He's been plus 11 at least defensive runs saved every full season he's been in the major leagues. Judge, and not only that, his throwing arm is terrific. Judge is a complete player regardless of the fact that he got a late start at 24, 25. But, yeah, no, to see him finally win the MVP that he deserves, because in 2017, we know what happened with Altuve and the Astros. Yeah, I'd love to see that. Rick?
I have Mike Trout. He's the best player in baseball. He's probably one of the greatest baseball players we've seen in the last 20 years. He just does everything. Constant professional. Hits for average, home runs, RBIs. Like I said, I don't see any big shock. Someone coming out of nowhere and winning it. Mike Trout's just a model consistency. And he's going to win another MVP. He'll probably win 7, probably 8 MVPs by the time his career's over. He's that good. So I have Mike Trout in a unanimous MVP.
Candy?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mike Trout as well.
Is there a bad thing you can say about him, though? Let's just, take
his hair's too short. His hair's too short. He needs to grow it out a little bit.
Exactly. I think when you're that good, and that's really the only negative thing you could say, because he's also one of the best ambassadors for baseball I think we've had in a long time. I honestly don't have, a bad thing to say about Mike Trout.
Well, I never said I had a bad thing to say about him, even though I'm the lone Mohegan that went with Aaron Judge. I just think that my gut feeling is telling me to go with Aaron Judge. That's all. I think Mike Trout is great for the game. I really do. And he's worth it. The Angels have paid him a lot of money to hang around there, and more power to him. But I tend to go with gut feelings, and for some reason or another, the Aaron Judge is mine.
Hey, who picks up the tab if Patrick Mahomes and Mike Trout are seen at a restaurant together? That's the question I want to have answered.
Well, I'll tell you who does. Yeah, Lenny Weiss does.
My dad?
Yeah, why not?
All right, that's interesting. But
hey, listen, you know what? You're full of stats, and I can throw you a curveball, Lewis. Lenny Weiss. If you're listening to this broadcast, you're picking up the tab.
There you go.
I'm making your son famous. You can at least pick up the tab.
That's $929 million in like already 4 MVPs.
Oh, don't worry about it. I'm sure he'll sell enough real estate to pick up the tab. Don't worry, Lenny.
All right. So we'll go. All right. So 3 out of 4 with Trout, 750. Probably going to be a slugging percentage this year. So we'll go now. We'll move on to the World Series pick. That's kind of like what we've been waiting for, and then we'll do Manager of the Year. So World Series pick. Who you got winning the World Series? Most of us said Yankees, Dodgers going. I'm just going to come out and say it. I love the Dodgers. I want Clayton Kershaw to win a World Series. I hate waking up every day knowing he doesn't have a ring because of some poor decisions with baseballs coming out of his hand and management decisions by Roberts and Mattingly. But I think the Yankees are going to win the World Series this year. I think 28's the banners are going to fly on 161st Street outside Yankee Stadium. I think they're going to win it. I think Garrett Cole and Judge, Stanton, and every single player from the clubhouse attendance you could name. I mean, that team is so loaded, it's ridiculous. Yeah, no, I mean, and I think they beat the Dodgers in 7 games in what's going to be the Corona World Series, but it's going to be one of the most entertaining series that we're going to see if it happens, and hopefully that comes to fruition because, man, that's going to be a ratings juggernaut regardless of whether or not people are in the stands or not.
Well, I got to tell you, part of me would want to think the Dodgers would win the World Series this year because they did it in 81, during that other shortened season. So if there's a Hollywood ending to a shortened season, then I would hedge my bet on the Dodgers. But you know what? I'm going with the Yankees too. And I'll tell you why I'm going to do that with the Yankees. How many World Series titles do they have, Lewis, in their history?
27.
Right. So we're going to call it the Bury the Asterisk World Series, knowing full well that the Yankees have 27. Nobody will worry about what number 28 is worth, right? Bury the asterisk, even though it will be an asterisk. I like the Corona World Series. Hopefully somebody's smart enough to go ahead and pick up on that one. But bury the asterisk, give it to the Yankees.
Yeah. Rick?
Well, I'm a huge Dodger fan. I grew up in Los Angeles. I went to Dodger games. So, of course, you know what my pick is? The New York Yankees. I have absolutely no faith in Dave Roberts. He has made the most forward-headed plays. That man shouldn't even be the head coach. The manager should have been fired 2 years ago. The Dodgers need to go after Mike Scioscia. And I hate to tell you this, Lewis, but Kershaw, he cannot win in the big spotlight. He's like Peyton Manning almost, where he does great in the regular season, but when it's for his time to shine, early in Peyton Manning's career, he couldn't get it done, and for some reason, I don't know if it's psychological or something, and it has to be, Kershaw just can't get it done in the World Series or postseason. I don't know what it is. I hate to say that about him, but he just can't. Yankees are just too loaded. They've been there. They've done it. They won 27 World Championships. Their motto is either we win it all or it's a bust. And they got money, and so I just see the Yankees winning the whole thing.
I wonder why Kershaw's lone blow up in the World Series in 2017, mind you. I wonder why that happened. We can bang a trash can and maybe that'll jog some of our memories.
Well, he also choked against the Cardinals, too.
Yeah, but that's true. I mean, I'm not going to argue on that.
2 years in a row with the Cardinals, I just thought the Cardinals had his number, and I was like, no, they all have his number in the playoffs, and then Dave Roberts had no faith in him. He put him in as a reliever, and he gave up a home run. He kept him in there, gave up another home run, and I mean, it's like your best pitcher right there. You're going to put him as a reliever. So, like I said, to me, the weak links with the Dodgers is Dave Roberts. He just does dumb things. I'm like scratching my head, like, what are you doing? And Kershaw just can't win it all. And the Yankees have been there, done that, and I just see them just steamrolling this whole season and winning it all.
Well, I mean, it's not uncommon, though, for World Series teams to put their dominant pitcher in a World Series, especially if they feel like they need to. But, yeah, in the case of Kershaw, he's certainly his postseason record speaks for itself. No debating that. Okay.
Andy?
Well, Manager of the Year is Craig Counsell, and the Brewers are going to win it, and they're going to have MVP. They're going to be MVP. Come on, let's look. The MVP with Christian Yelich. They're going to get Corey Knebel back, and they got Josh Hader, so their relief pitchers are going to take them. For their starting pitchers, they're going to start, but you're going to have 2 relievers that can come on, that can really shut it down.
Why she makes a compelling case there, doesn't she?
Josh Hader could be
Hader.
a dark horse Cy Young pick too in a shortened season.
Right.
And he'll probably give up like 4 runs all season.
I'll tell you what, and wonder why we love having Candy on the broadcast. I'll tell you, she throws stuff out there that a lot of us wouldn't. I don't care whether she's endorsing the daylights out of the Milwaukee Brewers, but I have spoken to Corey Knebel, and I think he's looking for a good comeback year, and of course Josh Hader, fine. He's an old school reliever that can go 2 or 3, and I actually during a Don Mattingly Zoom call talked about relievers going 2 or 3 innings, and he says during a season like this that you can expect to see a lot of relievers going 2 or 3 innings. To try to bridge the gap from the starter.
Every game is so important because it's only 60 games.
Right.
It's almost playoff-like. And just remember who the competition is that they're playing against. They're not playing against their normal teams, per se.
Well, they're playing divisional games.
They're divisional.
And then interleague.
Right. The interleague is actually in the region, but that's all right.
But that means we get like the Tigers and some of those other teams as well. I'm just saying, not to pick on your Tigers, Scott.
We might have a couple marquee players that might pitch after their service time is, and the Brewers will be drinking Stroh's beer instead of Miller beer.
Yeah, Candy, if David Stearns is listening right now, I hope he sends you a dairy cow because you are championing them like crazy. And, you have good reason to. I mean, like, Craig Counsell to me is the next coming of Girardi when it comes to a manager who gets everything out of his players. I mean, he's been the guy when Christian Yelich further ascended into superstardom. So, I'm not going to put that past you. I don't think that's a crazy pick at all.
Well, and it puts, even though Ryan Braun is dealing with a slight injury as of today, an oblique issue, he's been injury prone, but he doesn't have to play the outfield. He can be your DH.
Exactly. Yeah,
which helps them.
I totally agree with you. And you can play Avisail Garcia out there, who's Tampa turned into a better defender in the corners. You have Justin Smoke at first base. I mean, they have options. They're going to hit a lot of home runs. And I've heard that baseball's even more tightly wound this year, so the ball's going to be flying even more this year. So, I mean, who knows how many home runs we're going to see in the 60-game season.
Well, don't lose sight of the fact that you guys have already talked about the universal designated hitter is definitely going to give you a lot more offense for sure.
Now, this is the last thing I guess we'll touch on, and that's that. And I love, first off, I'll ask everyone, what are your thoughts on the universal DH, and who do you think benefits the most from it in the National League, at least? Because we know the American League, that's been a practice since Ron Blumberg in '73. So, they've had nearly 50 years of that. But who do you think in the National League benefits the most from the DH? And I'll be quick with it. I'll say the Dodgers because it allows them to tap more into their depth. Bellinger's going to play center field. We know how good a defender he is in the corners and first base. Also a good defender in center. You have Betts. But they also have Jock Peterson and A.J. Pollock and Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez, guys who would be starting on other teams but can get regular at-bats now because now that you take the bat out of the pitcher's hand, you can let them DH and they'll get more plate appearances. Kike Hernandez will play more against lefties. I mean, I think the Dodgers benefit greatly from the DH.
I actually think the Cincinnati Reds do. You know why? Because Nicholas Castellanos is there. He's a liability in the field, and just when Nicholas wanted to go play to the National League to play defense, guess what, Nick? Gonna have to wait another year or so because they're gonna bury you on the bench as a designated hitter like you were with the Detroit Tigers. So I would say the Cincinnati Reds because they've already got a professional designated hitter on their roster and Nicholas Castellanos.
That's a good pick.
I didn't think that's one you would come up with.
Field, so that and Aristides Aquino. Jesse Winker, not a good defender, but his on base skills and his power are very good. So why not?
Well, I didn't think you would come up with Nicholas Castellanos, Lewis. There's no way. But with all due respect, okay, Nicholas Castellanos has played in the role of the Reds, and ironically, the Detroit Tigers are opening up the season against the Cincinnati Reds down in Cincinnati. So that game can be heard on MLB Network. That's part of their lineup on Friday. So Nicholas Castellanos against the Tigers on opening day against Matt Boyd as the Tigers opening day. Go ahead, Rick.
You know how much I love the DH, just like I love WAR and I love analytics. Those are my favorite things in sports. Sarcasm. But I agree. I think it's going to be the Dodgers. They can just platoon players. They can get Betts, or they can get, just whoever they can get to being their DH, or just make them a better team and all that. So I think the Dodgers will benefit greatly. And unfortunately for me, they'll probably they'll have the DH probably like in the next 2 years. So and that looks like that's where they're going. So I think the Dodgers will benefit mightily with the DH in this very strange shortened season.
Yeah, Don Mattingly told me. I asked him that on one of our press conferences. Being obviously a lifetime American leaguer with the Yankees, he definitely feels that they're headed towards universal DH in the coming years. It's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when. Go ahead, Candy.
I have two. I think it'll benefit the Pittsburgh Pirates because I think Bell, he hits a lot of home runs and a lot of RBIs, but his defense has been lacking as of late. And I also think it'll really help the Colorado Rockies.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they recently signed Matt Kemp, and he's a historically horrific defensive player, regardless of what Gold Gloves say. I mean, he's bottom 3 all-time in defensive run saves, actually, among outfielders, with Adam Dunn being the other one. But, yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Kemp could benefit being a DH, give Arenado some DH days, Trevor Story, too, to avoid injury because he's had leg problems early on in his career. Yeah, it's not a bad decision at all, not a bad choice.
Well, actually, Matt Kemp benefits from another thing. Coors Field, high altitude, Colorado Rockies.
Oh, yeah. No, you're not wrong about that.
What's that?
Said you're not wrong about that.
Coors Field, yeah, I mean, Charlie Blackmon's out there. DJ LeMahieu proved he can hit anywhere. When I wrote an article on him a couple of years ago, but I'll tell you what, once he went over to Yankee Stadium, DJ LeMahieu proved that it wasn't the Coors Field effect, which probably prevents some Rockies from getting in the Hall of Fame. But LeMahieu proved that he could hit anywhere. So I don't know. Matt Kemp from Colorado and Candy bringing up the Rockies. Another good wild card, Candy.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, so we'll just do a rapid fire because I know you have another show, Scott. So we'll wrap it up.
I want to go over a couple key points.
We'll go Manager of the Year real quick. National League, Candy, we already heard you say the Brewers.
Yep.
So I will go National League, and I will say Girardi. I think time off, and I think what the Phillies have the potential to do in that season, I think it's going to help them. So I'm going to go Girardi, and then Scott.
You know what? I talked about Joe Girardi earlier, and I'm going to stay with it. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder that he feels he shouldn't have been let go by the Yankees. So I see no reason to go ahead and differentiate from what you're going there. I'm going Joe as well, Lewis.
Candy? Well, Candy, you got yours, so Rick?
I'm going with Great Counsel. I was going to go with Girardi too, but you guys stole my answer. I love Joe Girardi. I think his best manager career he did with the Yankees was unfortunately his last season, and they got rid of him, which is never should have happened. So yeah, I think he's like I said, have a chip on his shoulder. I think he wants to prove to people that he's still a great manager because he is. He can coach in any league. But, I'm going to go with Counsel because I just think he's one of the best uprising managers in Major League Baseball.
Okay. All right, and now we'll move on to the American League. So the American League, I'm going to go with Joe Madden, and that's just because, obviously you have Mike Trout, so it's going to, your job's going to be so much easier when you can pencil that into your lineup every day, but it's how is he going to handle Shohei Ohtani pitching, the balance of him DHing, also giving Albert Pujols days off, and the fact that you're going to also have to play Pujols at first base on the days that Ohtani DHs when he's not pitching. How can you also work within the confines of a very limited pitching staff? I think Joe Madden, obviously, he did it in Chicago, but he had the benefit of having all of their starting pitchers make their, most of their starts in 2016 on that World Series team. But I think Madden, he's won Manager of the Year before with the Rays. He won it with the Cubs in 2015. But I could see him taking home the hardware again in his first full season managing the Angels.
Well, I mean, I went with Angels as my dark horse pick, so why not stay with Joe Madden? I think he's a magician, to be honest with you. He did it. He took the Tampa Bay Rays to the World Series. He'll always be remembered as the guy that broke the Chicago Cubs' infamous drought a century long. So why not pad your Hall of Fame resume by managing the Angels deep into the postseason? I love Joe Madden, and of course, having Mickey Callaway as a bonus, but Joe Madden to me is my pick.
All right, and then I think last thing what we'll do before we go is we'll do a fun little kind of aside. Hey, you didn't hear my pick.
Yeah, what about his pick?
Yeah. Well, as long as you don't trash War, then we'll let you get your pick, Rick. You have to be okay.
Wow.
And then
Wow. I'm kidding. I'm messing with you, but go ahead. Yeah, give us your pick, and then we'll go ahead and.
I love Joe Madden, and I was going to get Joe Madden, but I love Cash in Tampa Bay. Like I said, he's a great manager. And like I said, I think Tampa Bay is really going to surprise some people because no one ever talks about them. They're always limited, and they're a small market, no fans as usual. But that's not going to be a problem this year. But I just love what Cash is doing, and I think I have him as my manager of the year.
All right, Lewis, I want to go over a couple key points that are necessary. First of all, I was on a Don Mattingly Zoom call today. I asked him about pitchers going deep into games, and Donnie said to me that he would love it. Okay, he obviously if they keep the pitch count in order, but he does listen to his guys, and if they're going well, then if he can, he can get guys to go that many innings, and he'll be sipping champagne. So, the goal is to keep the pitch count around 90 pitches, especially if they're getting ground ball out. So, what are your thoughts about guys doing more complete games, going deep into games?
I mean, I would love to see it. I've missed the era of guys like Roy Halladay kind of like reminding us of the times of, Carlton and Tom Seaver and, pitchers throwing 20 to 30 complete games a year. I would love to see that in a 60-game season. Who knows what you're going to see. I would, as a Marlin, somebody who grows up and roots for the Marlins here, even though, if you cover the sport, you kind of have to be objective in your, in the opinions that you give. I genuinely think, you owe it to those players to stretch out some of the young starting pitchers because, if the Marlins are competitive in the next 2 to 3 years like everybody expects them to be, you're going to want to have guys on that staff who are going to want to be able to go like long innings. Sandy Alcantara is the opening day starter. I'd love to see big things out of him this year. I'd like to see growth. And, he threw 2 shutouts last year. I believe he threw 2 or 3 complete games overall. He's got that mindset somewhat already instilled in him. But if he can further, develop, grow on that in this year, and guys like Harlan Garcia who give them big outs out of the bullpen, and they continue to get growth. Maybe Braxton Garrett makes an appearance in the major leagues this year. The Marlins are going to be a good team, but I hope Mattingly lets some of those guys stretch out and throw more innings.
Well, my gut feeling is he will. Okay, I remember Billy Martin used to live and die off complete games in another lifetime ago, and of course he burned a few pitchers on along the way. Some other wrinkles we're going to see during this shortened season will be piped in music. Major League Baseball has already sent each of the 30 clubs what the sound will be like in the during the course of the game presentation. And cardboard cutouts. Candy, why don't you go ahead and talk about what a lot of teams are going to be charging, because I think it's very interesting to try to give the appearance of a major league stadium effect, knowing full there won't be the real fans in there, because it's amazing what each club is going to charge as they vary. So go ahead, Candy, take it away.
So because of the virus, fans can't attend the MLB games in person, so at least at the start of the 2020 season, several teams are doing cardboard cutout programs in which fans can pay to have a cardboard likeness of themselves in the stands during home games. So some of the teams that are doing it, Dodgers are charging $149 for a field-level Lowe's sheet, $299 for pavilion home run seats in the outfield or the dugout behind club right behind home plate. Giants are charging $99. Mets, $86. Brewers, $50. Move on to the American League. Red Sox, a $500 donation to the Red Sox Foundation will yield you a fan cutout that will sit atop the Green Monster for a portion of the season. If a Red Sox home run ball hits the cutout, that fan will receive the autographed home run ball, 2 Green Monster tickets for the 2021 home game, a custom Red Sox jersey, a video replay of the home run, and proceeds are all donated to COVID-19 relief in Massachusetts. The Astros are charging $100, Athletics $49, White Sox $49 for first homestand only. Rays are charging $40 for a season ticket holder and $60 regular price. Royals $40, Rangers $50, Mariners $30. The Twins, it's free, but the photo instead will be made into a 53-foot high mosaic that will be placed in the left field home run porch at Target Field.
There you go. Now you have it. That's what the cutouts are worth. So before we wrap up the broadcast about where the Toronto Blue Jays, where we think are going to play, go ahead, guys. Why don't you give your thoughts about the cutout situation? Anything else you want to add before we talk about the Blue Jays?
What happens if somebody hits a foul ball and you break somebody's cutout? Are they going to pay for another one? I want to know the logistics of that. Someone pays $150 and Mookie Betts hits a foul ball and Chavez Ravine. Little Timmy's cardboard cutout broken. Does Daddy got to pay $150 more to get a new one? Like, I want to know how that works.
Well, I don't know. That'd be like me trying to ask a question that I've talked about in so many broadcasts. Will there be a pitcher lose a perfect game with a man on second? Which you're probably the only one that hasn't chimed on it, but not many. So.
Well, that's only an extra inning. So unless Harvey Haddix is coming back from the dead to pitch in 1959, I really don't see that happening.
All right, good.
I guess, Lewis, it would depend on how many people are going to actually pay for these, because if you think about it, you're going to have them all behind home plate for the most part, because you want it to look like there's fans in the stands when they're shooting and focusing in on the batter and stuff like that. So those are all behind the netting. So there isn't going to be, and then the angle that a ball would come down behind home plate probably wouldn't, damage it. Whereas, if there was someone sitting out in left field, yes, maybe.
No, I know. I'm just trying to instill some humor into what's very kind of like dark and mysterious times right now.
I hear you.
That's putting it lightly. So, what do you think, Rick?
About the fan cutouts? Well, they still look in the KBO. So, I mean, I'm not surprised by this. I said they're probably going to do this. And, it's still the ideas from the KBO who did this. And, I just think, like, the Dodgers and all that, a lot of them are being greedy. I think it's silly. I mean, Major League Baseball is so tone deaf. You need to get fans back. And here they are, here you got millionaires and billionaires arguing about how much money they're going to make and complaining they're only making $3 million a year. And then they have these cardboard cutouts. But, oh, wait, you got to pay this and pay that and pay this and pay that. And there's a reason why people or a lot of young kids today rather want to be, they want to play football or basketball because, baseball, they're tone deaf. I mean, and it's all about money. So, they stole this idea from the KBO, but to charge like the Dodgers, I think it's ridiculous.
I got to tell you an interesting sidebar about this 2020 season. Jordan Zimmerman was just recently put on the 45-day injured list, and the Detroit Tigers can be thankful for COVID-19 because they don't have to pay him his entire contract, knowing that 5-year deal that they signed him for over $100 million.
Disaster of a contract.
Wasn't it? 1-13 last year. He started off 5-0, and then after that he went right down the drain. So I just thought I'd throw that Jordan Zimmerman thing. So, with that said, I've got one more thing I want to address tonight here on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. That being the Toronto Blue Jays. Home will not be at the Rogers Center. So, Louis Addeo-Weiss, I want you to give me a prediction where you think the Toronto Blue Jays will play, and then everybody gets a crack at this before we wrap up the broadcast.
So I think PNC Park in Pittsburgh makes the most sense, and the one reason I have for that, obviously the regionality helps. It's not that far out from Toronto, but Ben Cherington, who used to work with the Red Sox, knows the New England area, sort of, even though I wouldn't consider Pittsburgh New England. But he also now works for I believe he works for the Toronto Blue Jays, but he formerly worked for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I could be wrong. I believe he actually is the GM now for the Pirates.
Right.
He has a relationship with the Blue Jays, so that could facilitate them having an agreement worked out with the Blue Jays or with the Pirates where they could possibly play there. But, I think that's the most viable option for them. We've heard Buffalo thrown out there, but I don't really think that makes a lot of sense given the fact that, a minor league clubhouse is very small and cramped. Are you going to enforce social distancing with 60 guys or 30 man rosters there? It just doesn't necessarily seem feasible. But yeah, I guess Pittsburgh is the one that makes the most sense when you really think about it.
All right, Rick, go ahead. I know where your heart's at.
I think, with location, Buffalo make the most sense, but their stadium is old.
Right.
So that's the thing that's going to hurt Buffalo, Names have been thrown out. Actually, Charlotte is actually a name that's been thrown out. They could play where the Knights play at Truist Stadium. Now it's called Truist Stadium, and the dimensions are perfect for Major League Baseball. It's like a miniature Major League Baseball stadium. It only seats 11,000, but they're not going to have any fans. But I think it'd be a great idea to put it in a city where there is no Major League Baseball, sort of maybe like a Nashville, maybe like a Charlotte. I think it would be great, and the commissioner's been talking about expansion. Why not experiment with it and put a Major League Baseball team in a city that doesn't have Major League Baseball? I think that would be great, but that's just my opinion on it.
What about you, Candy?
Well, I'm going to throw a dark horse, of course, because and I know what you all say that it's because I like Miller Park, but my question to you is, why don't you move it to a stadium that you are guaranteed a game? Let's face it, in a 60-game season, if you have a lot of rainouts, what's going to happen? So if you move it to a park that has a roof, so you're guaranteed a game, that's where I'd go.
Well, there's history there when the Miami Marlins were forced to go up to Milwaukee during the hurricane. I'll throw a couple out there. Number one, I think that if they can get the Buffalo Stadium up to standards within a week, I think it's the most logical choice. Who's to say the Blue Jays won't invest a little bit of money to try to upgrade that stadium where they can? Maybe this is a real far-fetched idea that hasn't even been brought up before. Well, what about Comerica Park? And I'll tell you why. Detroit and Toronto have a good history with each other with their Maple Leafs and the Red Wings, and Toronto's not that far of a drive from Detroit. Even though it has been mentioned, I'll throw Comerica Park out there for the heck of it, although everybody knows they're not going to come to Dunedin because of the COVID cases here in Florida, because I know that's where they were talking about initially, and that facility is up to date, and they have the facilities, but I don't see Dunedin. But, I'm going to still say Buffalo anyhow, although, I'll be a little bit of a homer on this with Detroit being a dark horse. So, interesting how we were able to cover lots of different ideas. So, with that said, okay, Louis, Addeo-Weiss, why don't you lead off and let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
Appreciate having me on, Scott.
You're welcome. So, let them know how they can get a hold of you, Louis.
They can get a hold of me on Twitter. You can follow me at Addeo_Lewis00. You can find me on Facebook, and then you can go on the South Florida Tribune's website and find my periodicals on there that I write from time to time. It's pretty much where I am. Right, and you contribute to this broadcast. Once again, for you fans out there, Lewis and I created this broadcast in 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. It's unquestionably a heck of a show that's picking up more and more momentum, and I'm glad to have it. Rick Curti, go ahead.
You can contact us on our website at www.charlottebats.com. Our email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Instagram at Charlotte Bats. Our Facebook page is Charlotte MLB and Charlotte Bats Baseball. And I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curti.
And Rick Curti does a lot of work with us in terms of social media promotion as well. So I want to make sure we get that in there. And last but not least, us. Okay, you can find Tribune on Twitter at Tribune South. That's the @ Tribune South. Facebook, you can like our page at South Florida Tribune. Instagram, same thing, South Florida Tribune. Like us there. We have a YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune. The website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can find all of our broadcast content from our media distribution partners, columnists, as well as these broadcasts on that very site. You can email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me, Scott Morganroth, on LinkedIn, as well. So once again, you're listening to 108 Stitches Baseball Talk here on WSAN Network. And you can also find these broadcasts wherever you get your podcasts as well. We have a lot of great partners that include the likes of iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So we have a lot of great places to get them. So on behalf of Lewis, Addeo-Weiss, Candy Ebling, thanks for being here with us, Candy. And Rick Curti, my name is Scott Morgan, we're out the Motor City of Madmouth. Wishing you a great night, and thanks for listening to 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Good night, everybody, and be safe and wear your mask, all right? We don't want to affect anybody else out there. Good night, everybody.